Hey guys, welcome. It's the weirdest damn thing. So I made that little intro about an hour ago and I was perfectly fine. But for whatever reason, when I began to play it just now with you all here, I got a little emotional. And that happens from time to time over the years that I've been following this case in order to document it, not to tell Gannon's story. That's a job for someone other than me. My job is to tell the story of due process and open source intelligence in the case against Letecia. I'm not writing a book about Letecia Stauch, although I'm sure she would love that. It's not that kind of party. But I do find this case, this case has had me since the very beginning. I was bartending in Palmer Lake during the search for Gannon. I'm also a boy mom. I have 3 sons and a grandson. And, all my kids are grown now. But, this case grabbed a lot of people because it just hits you in the guts. And because of that, I know that a lot of people do get emotional. And so I guess that's why I have my little public service announcement / disclaimer / whatever we want to call it up here on the screen. And I know that a lot of people, Henry, I'm talking to you. I know that a lot of people want to look at this stuff that I've put together. It's not evidence I've gathered. Well, I guess it is. I've gathered someone else's evidence, what we have access to, open source intelligence, right? But, I've put that stuff together. I'm not trying to prove anything here today. I don't have a theory. What I'm doing is I'm going through the things that I have available as a member of the public with, without any certain, licensure or certification or anything like that, and there are a lot of things that we can look at. So we're going to look at maps that I put together from the GPS report that came from budget. We're going to look at the case report. There are so many other things, financial reports. We're just going to go through all that stuff. And as we're going through it, I'm actually putting it in order on a piece of paper here. And my agenda for this live stream is to walk away with a timeline for the road trip that's been, fact checked and vetted by us, more or less, right? So this is less a presentation and more a study session. And I appreciate you guys being here to study with me. So what I've done, is I've created an edition, or basically like a hidden page on the website where I kind of posted the source material for for my research on the timeline. And if I did this properly and Nightbot is off of their union break, then I should be able to put the word trip in the command, and that will bring up the hidden web page on my site that I'm using. And on that page, you'll see these images that I've gathered, which is a series of screenshots, and also a video of the testimony of 3 people. So the clips that I took were from the testimony of John Grassel, who is the former Rhode Island State Police officer. And he talked really about the van, and there were a lot of photos of inside the van and things like that. And then I also clipped the portion of Harley Hunt's testimony where she talked about the road trip. And then finally, I clipped some testimony from the El Paso County coroner, because he's the one that they really kind of questioned. They didn't question him directly, but we all knew what they were talking about with, the odor that comes from a decomposing body and temperature and all of that stuff. So anyway, I've got those clips put together, but then also on that page, you will find the document from, it's called an AirIQ GPS report. And that's the report that was a result of the GPS unit inside the moving van. And yeah, I guess we'll get started. Let me check on the comments. I did want to say that because, I'm going through all of this stuff, I won't probably be able to keep very good track of the comments, but I'll do my best. I'm running through here, and you guys warm my heart. I love seeing all of those blue hearts. I was really concerned about this live stream, and in fact, I reached out to Allie and Jen and a couple of other people. How do I say this? So the topic of Harley and her alleged guilt or innocence, it's a very polarizing topic. The good news for us is that Harley Hunt is not the topic of today's live stream. We will be talking about it. But at the end of the day, there's one true victim in this case, and that's Gannon. And I know that there are people who want to prove that Harley was implicit. And it's not like I don't have those thoughts. I have those thoughts as well. But the simple truth is that's not up to us. It's up to the elected officials that we put in place to handle these sorts of criminal situations, right? I myself am an El Paso County voter, and I voted for Mike Allen, and I voted for Judge Werner. But that's their job on behalf of the county, on behalf of the district, on behalf of the state, and really on behalf of all of us. It was up to them. And the truth is, even if Harley were implicit, if she did get, I said implicit, I meant complicit. Sometimes I don't words right. That's why I have to write it down and edit them. Anyway, even if Harley got away with something, statute of limitations is out. They made that decision for us. But I do find it interesting that we are looking at, this stuff that not only they found, but what they put together to put out into the public record. And I feel like I'm blabbering on, and we should just get into it. I've got my pen and paper ready. I guess anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for all the blue hearts. I saw a ton of blue hearts in the chat, even if I may have missed some comments. So, okay, according to detectives, Gannon was killed by Letecia on Monday, January 27th, 2020. His body was then stored in several different places, to include the storage room, the Tiguan, at the airport, and then out in the wilderness at the S-curve. That was five. So what we're getting into now starts 5 days after he was killed. So we're basically going to start on February 1st of 2020, if I can bring that up here. I'm hoping that you guys can see this okay. Probably not going to be the best with the graphics. I was really winging it. However, like I said, I've given access to what I'm looking at. If you don't want to look at it on my screen, you can follow along on the website. So I'll put that in again and see if that works. So !trip should have a link to the webpage. Okay, back to it. So starting on Saturday, February 21st, excuse me, this layer is using only the data that came from the GPS inside moving van number 2, which they picked up on February 1st, transferred the items from one moving van to the other. And at that point, Deborah and Brenda and Dakota all got in the Nissan and drove back to Denver and turned in the rental car. And then, detectives cut the GPS connection. But Letecia and Harley and Sadie and Chance and Gannon's body got in moving van number 2 and hit the road. Now, so like I said, this layer is just the GPS information, but we do have other information as well. I know that she stopped at Walmart. So what I did is I searched the case report for the word Walmart. And one of the things that I came up with was this. So it says, I reviewed video collected from Walmart located in Trinidad, Colorado, which contained 5 clips. On clip number 1, which is a camera view of a parking lot, a white panel van is observed entering the view from the left of the camera at 11:57 a.m. The vehicle parks and a person walks from the driver's side of the vehicle toward the front of the store. The person was wearing a gray long-sleeve shirt, black pants, and a black backpack-style purse. The person goes out of view at 12:01 p.m. On clip number 2, I see the same person wearing the same clothing approach an entertainment counter carrying a white box at 12:12 p.m. After appearing to purchase the unknown item, the person leaves the counter with the box in a gray Walmart bag. On clip number 3 and clip number 4, clip number 3 and clip number 4 were reviewed and nothing found. Clip number 5 appears to show an exit door, and at 12:18 p.m., the person wearing the gray shirt, black pants, and carrying a backpack-style purse and the store bag exit the store through the doors after having stopped and showed security the contents of the store bag. Upon exiting, I was able to identify the person as Letecia Stauch. On clip number 1, Letecia comes back into view at 12:15 p.m. and walks back to the white panel van, which leaves the parking lot at 12:20 p.m. So that was a long, drawn-out, official report sort of way of saying, we found Letecia on the security footage at the Trinidad Walmart, which is just on the border between Colorado, still in Colorado, obviously, but it's just on the border of Colorado and New Mexico, which is where they headed next, but not until after stopping at a retail marijuana dispensary. So what did I want to say about this? Okay, so on this one, I paid attention to the clothing that she's wearing because, later we're going to see that hotel footage from the Candlewood Suites in Pensacola where, Harley goes in with the dogs and then Letecia plays her role and checks in as a single female with no pets. And in that video, well, we'll get there. But anyway, this is one of the things that I cross-reference with that video because we have very little coverage they stayed at several hotels, but we only have security footage or from one hotel the first night, which would have been the same day that she stopped at Walmart and the dispensary. So of course, that night when she gets to the hotel, she's still wearing the same thing. It's their first time at the hotel. What we don't see is them leaving and whether or not they're wearing different clothes. Another thing we don't see is footage from the next night. So the first night, I think they stayed in, what was it? Let me check my notes. Okay, the first night they stayed in Amarillo. And again, we don't have them leaving on February 2nd. We also don't have them arriving at the Decatur, Texas, Candlewood Suites on February 2nd or leaving on February 3rd. We are told that nobody ever went to the back of that van. And again, we'll get to that in a little bit. Anyway, Letecia went to Walmart in Trinidad and she bought a cell phone. And, so here she is. She knows she's under investigation. She's leaving the state. The police have confiscated her phone. She's got to get a burner phone. A lot of people would just get the cheapest possible, whatever, throw away, whatever, yada, yada, right? Not Letecia. Letecia, with no way of making any more money, even though there's, at this point, I think there's a GoFundMe and, she's throwing around her and Harley's Cash App and things like that. She's fleeing the state while under investigation, which she's okay to do because no charges have been filed. And nobody specifically told her, don't leave the state. So she's well within her right, but she also knows that she is fleeing from the investigation, even though she's got an excuse. So anyway, most people would buy the cheapest throwaway, whatever. Not Letecia. She drops $300 on a burner phone. It's one of those things you do, I guess, when you're playing with other people's money. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, after Walmart, so let's see, one more, let me go back. Okay, so they leave the Walmart parking lot at 12:20 p.m. and this is Mountain Time. Their next stop at 12:37 p.m. while still in Trinidad, but getting closer to the border of New Mexico. They stop at the Native Roots dispensary. And I was thinking maybe that's where they got the CBD treats for the dogs. But Native Roots doesn't sell CBD treats. They don't sell dog treats at all. A lot of dispensaries do, but Native Roots does not. But anyway, as I read further in the case report, nobody enters or exits the van. They just know that it's the van. So did they stop at a retail cannabis dispensary on their way across the border into New Mexico? Yes, they did, but they didn't go inside, for what it's worth. They could have purchased the CBD dog treats at Walmart. She didn't. All she got was the phone. But anyway, the point is, I don't know where the dog treats came from. They might have already had them. Okay, so back to the original map. Again, this is the GPS from moving van number 2. Now, because it only makes certain, I think it's every 6 hours. I'd have to look. And again, I've got the document right there on that webpage. If one of the mods could do ! Trip, then you can look at the GPS data report that I'm pulling this information from. So it doesn't say every stop where they stopped, just some of them. And sometimes it gives an address even though they're in a moving vehicle. But anyway, this is the route. And then of course down here circled is Pensacola. Again, so 18 Western Plaza Drive is, I believe, the going through my notes. Okay, I believe that's the Amarillo hotel. And then Down here, I believe, is the Decatur Hotel. And then the next night, from February 3rd into February 4th, this is, the Pensacola Hotel. So when we zoom in on this, and this was, I wanted to make this the thumbnail going into the live stream, just to give some people something to think about before we got here today. I will go back and change the thumbnail later so that it makes more sense, aesthetically with the channel and the website. But, this is a big one. This is a big one. So again, we can see the van on February 1st, and then the evening of February 1st, we can see them checking into that first hotel. But we don't get a visual. Well, when I say we, I don't mean investigators. I know what I was given as far as public record for the things that were gathered. But the truth is, even that is still just a portion. But when I say we, I mean us. We don't see them again visually after that first night, February 1st. So anyway, Candlewood Suites, Pensacola, they're coming this way. They go to Candlewood Suites, Pensacola. They check in to the hotel. It says just before midnight. That's a typo. They actually check in just after midnight, but they made the reservation just before midnight. So see what I mean? This is less a presentation and more a study session. And I'm in a way, I'm reviewing notes I've already made and going on to the next phase of my notes with the fact check. Anyway, so they check into Candlewood Suites, Pensacola, just after midnight. The van was parked at QTC Medical Group, which is the second dot here. The van was parked at QTC Medical Group at 4:15 a.m. Now, we don't know what time Letecia and or Harley left the Candlewood Suites to get to QTC Medical Group, and it was parked there for a while. It was parked there, and of course the business was closed. They were sitting in this parking lot at 4:15 a.m. Now, we don't have a time for when the van was at the Escambia River Bridge. We have a time for when it was at the QTC Medical Group. What I didn't include yet are phone pings. I was unable to prepare the phone data before this live stream. So between this live stream and the actual chapter for the book, there will be phone pings and things of that nature. So anyway, we know that at 4:15, she was at QTC Medical Group. And I am going to continue. I'm going to move forward saying she, because I believe that it was just Letecia, because I don't think that they would have brought the dogs. I don't think that they would have left the dogs at the hotel by themselves when they're not even supposed to have them. This is me just sharing my thoughts out loud. This is just my thought process. It's worth exactly what you paid for it. I mean, it's just an opinion. Anyway, so QTC Medical Group at 4:15, and then back to the hotel at 5:10 a.m. Now, we know that they were checked out of the hotel at 11:11 a.m. on the 4th. And I say it that way because they probably just left the key in the room and left, but we don't know when. We just know that they checked out at 11:11. And they were checked out at 11:11, which could have just been done as a result of housekeeping saying, yeah, they're gone. So anyway, we will be coming back to this. So another thing that I did, I went to the case report and I searched Candlewood Suites. Last time it was Walmart. Then I searched Candlewood Suites. I was contacted by criminal intelligence analyst Kevin Clark. He requested I contact staff at the Candlewood Suites located at 1953 North Cross Lane in Pensacola, Florida, to collect information concerning Mrs. Letecia Stauch's stay at the hotel. He was specifically looking for check-in and check-out times while Mrs. Stauch stayed at the hotel on February 4th, 2020. I'm not going to read the rest of that, but I'll tell you the reason why I have this screenshot up here is because it caught my attention, because it starts with, this report from Bethel starts with on Wednesday, April 29th, 2020. Now, by that date, Letecia has been arrested. Gannon's body has been found. The probable cause affidavit has been leaked. And after those things, then Kevin Clark, who works for the DA's office, is contacting Detective Bethel, who's the lead detective on the case, and asking her to reach out to Candlewood Suites in Pensacola. But they weren't even looking for this information until April 29th. Now, I'm not saying they didn't do a good job. I just find it interesting that, that's how it played out. Another thing that I found particularly interesting about this report, if we look at the wording, it says he was specifically looking for check-in and check-out times while Mrs. Stauch stayed at the hotel on February 4th. Now, the stay was actually from the 3rd to the 4th. Not important. He didn't ask for video surveillance, I guess is the point that I'm trying to get out. And Bethel got a hold of the hotel, and she asked the person for records of the reservation to stay. When did she check in? When did she check out? How did she pay? Did she show her ID? Things like that. But what this report doesn't say is that they also requested camera footage, which, are we to believe that detectives didn't request all of the camera footage from the time that they checked in to the time that they left the premises, which would be on camera? Are we to believe that detectives didn't request that footage? I think I remember somewhere in trial them saying that it wasn't available. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? You got the footage from the night of February 1st from the Candlewood Suites in Amarillo. While important, nowhere near as important as the footage from the Candlewood Suites from February 3rd going into February 4th, right? They come. Okay, now I'm going to take a break and check in with chat because I haven't seen it this whole time. I hope everything's going okay. I'm not going to go through all the comments, but I just wanted to check in, Oh, I saw a big green. Curious Jen. I love your vibe and energy. You are my favorite of the three. I will definitely be purchasing your book. Love to you and yours. Look, we're not the chipmunks. You don't have to pick a favorite. We all love you. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you very much for the super chat. I'm just giving you shit. We're having a casual study session, right? Megan, thank you very much for that. I don't see a bunch of huge, I don't see, it looks like everything's going great. Lynette Burns says, for the beauty of sharing and transparency. It's a many-pronged thing, Lynette, because, on one hand, I'm doing this for myself because I'm writing a book, and I don't just look at information once and then write it down and say, looky here, I wrote a book. I want to say like some people so bad. I guess I just did. Anyway, I would be doing this anyway. But when I share it, then it kind of adds to that theme of the book about open source intelligence and what's public record, what's public information, and what isn't, and where does it stop and why, you know. So then it also serves that purpose, you know, and then it also allows me to build the website. So I know that there are other people studying like me, and so let me see. So my favorite author of my lifetime is hands down Hunter S. Thompson. And I do not love his work because he was this like drug-addled lunatic who was wild and wrote a really popular book and covered Richard Nixon like nobody's business. Okay, that's a bonus. It's just not why I like him. Whereas a lot of people, a lot of fans of him or his work kind of get stuck at his public persona. And it's really unfortunate because the man was fucking brilliant. Anyway, one of the things that I love about his work, and I'm careful to say not him, because, you know, you can admire the myth, but specifically it's his work that hooked me and made him my number one of my lifetime. And it's because he left a blueprint. So in that way, I'm taking, you know, his influence on me as a writer, and I'm trying to leave a blueprint as I fumble through this thing called publishing my first book. And the idea that you guys want to be involved in it and that you enjoy the content and that you will study with me is really amazing to me, because I have had severe bouts of I don't know what the fuck, but it was dark. Throughout the years, I've come in and out of some really dark rabbit holes chasing this case. And thank God that I have you guys, and thank God that I have, you know, a former supervisory special agent of the FBI that I can reach out to for therapy and or information. And thank God that I have a practicing criminal defense attorney in the district where this happened. I mean, you know, Lee Walters and Chris Welch have helped me a huge deal. But you know, I leave a trail, and I get pulled back out of the rabbit hole. MK gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, and congratulations to whoever got them. Nicole grabbed a membership. So all of these members, Allie snuck in a kiss to be sure I would see it. I love you, Allie. These memberships. So members pay $3.99 a month, or that's what they're paid, you know, for 1 month in a gifted membership. YouTube takes their cut, and then I end up with $2.71. And that's fair. I appreciate the platform, YouTube. I'm not bitching about YouTube's cut. I'm just giving you an idea of what comes to me and how important it is to me. So $2.71, you know, times whatever the number of members are, that helps me continue to obsess on this case like I have been doing for years. I quit my day job back in July of 2021, specifically the 4th of July, because I really needed my freedom. But anyway, we won't get into that. Since then, I've had, you know, tax returns and YouTube, and I've just recently started delivering groceries for Walmart. You know, if I could get some sort of degree just for the 4 years of research I've done on this case, that would be awesome. and it's not, you know, I really have to focus on it. So between delivering for Walmart and doing this YouTube thing, I'm able to support myself and still obsess on this case and finish the book. So, anyway, I know I got way off track, but hey, you guys are at my desk and we're having a study session. I just wanted to check in with chat. And again, if I miss things later, I apologize. Okay, let's get back to, speaking of keeping myself on track. Okay, what was the point of this? Okay, the point of this to me was that on April 29th, the district attorney's office got a hold of the investigator and said, hey, get me the paperwork and the details of the Pensacola Candlewood Suites stay right by the Escambia River Bridge where Gannon's body was found. Whew. Okay, so for this map, we start here on the left with where we left off on the first map, which is the Escambia River Bridge. Well, technically, it's the QTC Medical Group. And then according to the GPS, this is the route that was taken. 1400 Gannon at the top right of the screen is the budget location. I may have said U-Haul earlier. Anyway, you guys know what I meant. But in the meantime, this corner here is that she parked the budget van at a Days Inn. And as part of Harley's testimony, she said that the reason Letecia parked the moving van there was because she didn't want to draw attention to the person's house who they were staying at. So that's the information we've got. So here's another screenshot. Now, in this one, so it's Airbnb. Down here, this is them staying at an Airbnb in Orlando. They had originally booked a hotel, which let me jump to that one real quick. Sorry, these are out of order. Okay, so originally they had booked a hotel. It was the Holiday Inn. She paid with USAA. The charge was $315.70, but the charges were reversed. So Letecia changed her mind, and instead of spending $315.70 on a hotel, they chose to do Airbnb. Okay. At approximately 900 hours, I also took part in a meeting with several members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. I received direction from Special Agent John Cronin to follow up several financial-related accounts, to include GoFundMe, Airbnb, Craigslist, Cash App, and Apple Pay. I was advised Letecia had been using the name Kylie Britt to make her reservation with Airbnb and to post an advertisement on Craigslist within the last week, and may also be using that same email address to access her digital wallets / Cash Apps. I was also advised Letecia's new phone number was blank. It was unknown whether she had changed her phone number on Saturday, February 8th, when she went to the AT&T store in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I was instructed to follow up with Robert Boz, Special Agent with the FBI, regarding all financial information. I provided him with all information I had currently obtained, to include copies of court orders, warrants, receipts, and all documentation provided by the financial businesses. So this was just the first time that Airbnb came up. But this time frame that we're talking about, which is February 1st to February 6th, there was a GoFundMe for $150,000. And it was something that Letecia created. And she said that she was trying to raise this $150,000 in order to bring Gannon home happy and whole. Anyway, she also made a Craigslist post because, okay, now Letecia told Budget when she rented moving van number 2 that their final destination was Texas. And they did make 2 stops in Texas, and then they went to Pensacola, dropped Gannon off, and then continued on to Orlando because that was their next final destination. They wanted to find a place to live in Orlando, and that's where they were going to be. And now Letecia had been going to Orlando. Letecia was in Orlando in November of 2019, and Letecia was in Orlando in December of 2019. Okay, so she had been going to Orlando, and remember the text messages, or no, I'm sorry, the Google searches from the weekend before Gannon was killed. You know, military singles and Orlando Craigslist, right? She was looking, how much would a moving van rental be to get to Orlando? Okay, so this is her finally making the trip to Orlando that she was thinking about before she killed Gannon. The problem is they didn't have anywhere to stay. So let me get to that one. Okay, so here's the Craigslist post. This was posted on February 5th while they were in Orlando. Under Rooms and Shares, the title was Responsible Roommate, and the body of the post said, I am looking for a room for myself and my 17-year-old. Both are responsible working professionals, and we have 2 small puppies. Looking for a nicer place. Amenities are a plus. Need immediately. You guys. First of all, responsible roommate, singular, but it's for 2 people. So you want 1 room in somebody's house, preferably a nice place with amenities. We're looking for a nicer place. We don't want to be in the hood, right? So responsible roommate turns into 2 people and 2 dogs. Not dogs, puppies. So they're looking for somebody who has a nice place with amenities, and they want to rent 1 room for an adult, a 17-year-old, and 2 small puppies. Need right away. But they're both responsible working professionals. Do responsible working professionals need a place immediately for 2 humans and 2 canines? And do they use Craigslist? I mean, these are rhetorical questions. I'm not necessarily looking for an answer. I'm just running you. I mean, welcome to my brain, you guys. Listen, my brain is sometimes a dangerous place, but I think you guys are safe. I mean, there's safety in numbers, right? Okay. So yeah, this Craigslist post just blew me away. We also learn that when she was staying at Airbnb, she was using the name Kylie Britt, which, fun fact, is also the name that she put the burner phone in. Kylie Britt's got a $300 burner phone. Now, I'm not sure exactly where Kylie Britt came from. It's not listed as one of her aliases for the jail, although, I got this directly from their investigation. It is an alias that she used. I don't know. I tried to connect this in my mind. Remember the phone calls from prison? I think Melissa played some of them last night on her channel. Danny Britt, Aunt Brenda said that she was going to reach out to U.S. Senator Danny Britt. Sorry, let me stop with my snark. Anyway, Aunt Brenda said she was going to reach out to Danny Britt, and he was a senator, and he was going to give Aunt Brenda a letter that allowed Aunt Brenda to have extra time on her visits, on her in-person visits with Letecia, because she had to travel such a long way. So Aunt Brenda's going to visit Letecia, and the regular prison visits aren't good enough. Aunt Brenda wants more. So Aunt Brenda's going to reach out to a senator to get a letter to give to the warden of Denver Women's Correctional Facility that's going to allow Aunt Brenda to have extra. That never happened. But anyway, I do wonder if whatever. I wonder if there's a connection to Danny Britt in Leticia's mind with this fake name. I mean, who knows? But yeah, so Letecia is Kylie Britt at the Airbnb. And then we dig a little bit further and we see that, okay, now Airbnb can be sketchy. I was staying at an Airbnb during the trial because I had moved out of the place where I was living. So I was kind of floating. Right before trial, I went to stay, me and Kilo went to stay with a friend in Virginia. And then I flew back in for the trial and stayed in an Airbnb. They don't, some places just really don't make you prove things. I don't know. Anyway, this is from Airbnb. So the ID that Letecia, aka Kylie Britt, used to reserve this Airbnb was a photograph of the back of the front and back of Harley's military ID, Air Force rank airman. Okay. So Kylie Britt has Harley Hunt's military ID. And let's see. So the reservation starts the night. So in the early hours of February 4th, that's when Gannon's body gets dumped. The reservation was made starting the 4th for 6 nights. She was going to stay at this Airbnb while they were finding a place to live. One guest. Okay, so she does with Airbnb the same thing she does with the damn hotels. It's her and Harley and 2 dogs, but she's making an Airbnb reservation for 1 guest in Kissimmee, Florida. I don't know if I said that right. Anyway, the Airbnb account was created on February 4th after she dumped Gannon's body, and the phone number was verified that day. There were messages sent. You know how you can send the host messages? So there were probably messages sent saying, I don't know. I mean, we don't know because it's not there in the report. So she paid for the Airbnb using her USAA card. Now here, they've got all of this stuff redacted. User accounts. So apparently user accounts. Now, I don't know, is that user? There are 8 user accounts that they accessed, they being the police, accessed through Airbnb. I mean, that's what it appears. This is all about the information they got from Airbnb. So I'm going to assume that document 8 are the user accounts, so document 8, not 8 user accounts. Document 8 is the user accounts from Airbnb. So they're going to redact, I don't know. She's got at least one. So one account is Kylie Britt and one account is Taylor Stauch. It would be interesting. I mean, they're redacting a date of birth for an alias. I mean, come on, you could have given us that. I'd like to know what Kylie Britt's birthday is. Anyway, so for account Taylor Stauch, 7 guests, 2 nights. I don't understand that. For account Kylie Britt on February 4th, 2020, 1 guest for 6 nights. Now this is the Kylie Britt account is the one where she actually stayed. This makes me wonder, did she also create, because we don't see when the Taylor account was created, did she also create the Taylor Stauch account using her information, to leave a trail, right? And then create something for 7 guests for 2 nights. Was this separate account created, the reservation made, and then canceled to throw them off her trail? I don't know. I mean, again, this is less a presentation and more a study group. So bear with me, guys, and take away your own, take away what you will. We're just studying the same material. You don't have to see what I see. I just love that we can talk about it and because of you guys, I'll see things that I wouldn't have and vice versa. Okay, let's move on. Because I do have like 42 minutes of testimony I want to review. I immediately received a response from Airbnb. She called me and advised she had already pulled the information because it had been previously looked up in reference to a request for this case. Okay, anyway, why did I clip this? Oh, I clipped this just because it did list the owners of the Airbnb property. And I clipped this and saved it for myself because I will be reaching out to them and asking them for an interview for the book. So that's why I clipped that. That was really more for me. We already talked about her Craigslist post. So from the Airbnb, she's looking for a place to live. This is from the GPS report, this page. Before we get into this, I'm going to go back and check on chat again. And, for all I know, the mods are working like crazy to kick people out who are fighting, but I don't think that just doesn't look like that to me. So thank you for being respectful in chat. I feel rude just reading. Okay. Back to road trip. Okay, so February 1st, 140 East Garden of the Gods is budget where she rented the van. Stop number 1 is at a truck stop before they get on the road. And then, from other sources, we know that she stopped at Walmart and then the dispensary. And she left Walmart right away after purchasing the phone. So my guess is she pulled into the dispensary parking lot to set up the phone so that she could be actively using it and throwing people off her trail before she actually got on the road. That's why she stopped at the dispensary. And then we've got Texas, and then we've got the hotel in Amarillo, and then Bellevue again, and then the hotel in Decatur, and then we get to Florida at the bottom of this page. So the North Davis Highway is the Candlewood Suites where they stayed from the 3rd to the 4th. And then we have the 4th again. So on the 5th, they arrive in Lake Buena Vista, Florida, at a townhouse community is where they're staying. But again, okay, so wait a minute. So this tells me, no, I was correct. Okay. Sorry, I thought I had been giving you guys bad information because I misread something, but I was wrong about being wrong. Lucky day. Okay, so February 4th, moving 119 kilometers an hour through Florida. So this is after dropping off Gannon's body. Then they check into a townhouse community in Lake Buena Vista, Florida, which is going to be the Airbnb. And this is when she's sending out the Craigslist post looking for a place for them to live. And so they only stayed there, it looks like, one night. So they stay there one night, and then I guess take out early in the morning. So this is just after midnight. Huh. It would be interesting to see when they checked into the Airbnb. This is just, this could be any time in a 6-hour time period between Lake City, Florida and Lake Buena Vista, Florida, when the GPS pinged. So then at just after midnight on the 5th, so basically the night of the 4th to 1810, and then the vehicle is moving at 12:10, in the middle of the night. So that's how long they were at the Airbnb looking for a place to live. And then, and we do know, Harley says that they were running out of money. I guess the GoFundMe for $150,000 wasn't working, and not enough people had sent money. I do have access to records that say they received more than $4,000 during this time, they being Letecia and Harley. And that was from strangers sending them money. That was from the money she took out of the account. That was from money that was sent to Harley in a GoFundMe. It was just over $4,000, and it somehow wasn't enough. She was running out at this point. So then they took off to South Carolina and ended up in Myrtle Beach, where they dropped the budget van back off. Where was I on this? Let me see. What do we have here? Okay. Nope, that's from the Airbnb. We've already went over that. This I just clipped because it shows the exact information of the van. The number of miles recorded on the vehicle. I'll get back to that later. But like I said, I guess this would be a good time to drop the trip link again. So on my website, you guys can look at all of this stuff yourself and kind of flip around, where you're forming your opinions from. Okay, so this was her American Express card and she had several cards. So this was just part of the money that she was spending. So February 1st, we have budget truck rental. February 1st, Candlewood Suites. So we know she checked in at that time, which would have been 6:49 p.m. What I don't know is now that they're in Texas, if the time zone has changed and if that affects when, what this timestamp is. And then, like Harley says in her testimony, we've got Grubhub that night once they got to the Candlewood Suites. Then they go to Walmart again in Texas. This is one stop at Walmart, two separate purchases on the same card. And then we have Candlewood Suites the next night, which is going to be the Decatur location. So, and then this is a different account, but also American Express. And then, so on 2/1, she tried to swipe at budget and it was declined. And then on 2/3, she used this card to get to the Candlewood Suites in Florida. So she checked in at 23:22. So what is that? 23:11:22 is when she checked in. Unfortunately, we don't have any video footage. BP products. So this is going to be on the 6th when she's getting ready to return the budget van. She fills up the van with gas, and then budget runs this card and it's approved. So then she pays for the van, and then she goes on about her business being, food, phone, Dollar General. And then a car rental on February 13th. But that's outside the scope of what we're working on here today. And we already have, there are so many rabbit holes just from February 1st to February 6th. It's just not even funny. And then we talked about this earlier, where Letecia made a reservation for the Holiday Inn in Orlando, but reversed it and stayed one night at an Airbnb instead. Let's see. Okay, so this screenshot I included just as a backup to how I know that Letecia was in the Orlando area in both November 2019 and December 2019, is because of this paragraph right here. Of note, there were 2 recent occasions where charges were made on this account outside of Colorado or internet-based shopping. On November 7th, there were charges for Castaway Cove Park, Holiday Inn Express, and Calypso Cap Pool and Bar in Kissimmee? I don't know. Hope I'm not butchering it. Sorry, guys. I should ask Jen Lou. She would definitely know. On December 3rd and 4th, there were charges for Allure Resort Hotel, Rosen Center Red's Deli, and 7-Eleven in Orlando, Florida. So November 7th and December 3rd, Letecia was in the Orlando area. Also of note, on this card, there were a bunch of authorizations between December 23rd, 2019 and January 30th of 2020. And it says there were many small and large charges for calltruth.com. Calltruth.com. Let's just go to the website. I think I will have to change on StreamYard what I'm sharing. Let's see, share screen, new tab. Yes. New tab. Who this? Calltruth.com, robot check. Okay, I think I'm sharing. Am I sharing that now? No. I think I messed it up, you guys. It's my first day. Okay, share screen, robot check. Okay, we are not a robot. Okay, no, I'm not doing this. I don't know, maybe she got scammed. I don't know what calltruth.com is, but I'm not putting it on the website. Don't go there. I had an issue with something like contact something or other being on my website recently, and it was a nightmare to get off because it would say something like, pay for your content here. And people would go to my website and they would think that I was trying to charge them for content. So I got several emails from people saying, hey, there's something screwy on your website. It's tricking people it's trying to trick people into giving their debit card number for information. So I panicked and I turned it off. And so what I'm going to do, the ad revenue on the website, I mean, you guys understand, why I need to, I don't know, like make a living. So between Walmart and YouTube and the website, I've got the ad revenue and the Walmart deliveries. Anyway, I'm going to remove, at the end of this month, I'm removing the ad revenue from the website because it's just not worth it. It's not worth it to me. And it's a much better experience for you guys if you don't have to screw with the stupid ads. Plus, I do have ads of my own for Print Ready CG, Wax Melts, the Bussy Law Firm, and Excalibur Private Investigation. I'm not necessarily getting paid for those, but still, those ads are on the website. You guys don't need to deal with extra ads. I'm removing the ads. I don't know how you guys put up with me sometimes. Okay, so what are we going to share next? Let's check in on the chat, and then I'd like to go to the video that I put together of key testimony clips that reference the road trip. Let me check my notes. Okay, so first we'll go back to the screen share and we'll put it on the website. Okay. So this, I wanted to just tell you guys a story before I got into the key testimony about the road trip. And this young lady right here is Alexis Pack. And she was a front desk clerk at the Candlewood Suites Hotel in Pensacola, Florida. And she was working on the day that Letecia checked out. And she testified to a lot of things. They reviewed the paper that Letecia filled out when she checked out in and out, saying that she was one single person, one queen bed, no pets, with a Ford Motor Company discount. I mean, Letecia's just, I'm telling you, something I've always said. I know a lot of you have probably heard this a million times, but something I've always said about Letecia is that she is nowhere near as smart as she thinks she is, but she's a lot more intelligent than people give her credit for. She has most likely been underestimated her entire life, and that is, in fact, what gives her an advantage over the people that she's trying to manipulate. And so, she's just, she's not as smart as she thinks she is. But she's smart enough to be manipulative. And if the ability to manipulate other human beings were somehow the criteria for Mensa, then she'd be the president of your local chapter. She would be brilliant. Although I believe, she talks about on these jail calls, she talks about how she's in jail awaiting her powers, and nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, the polar opposite is true, because as she's in jail, what's actually happening, Letecia, is you're losing your powers. Your powers to manipulate people by coercion or blackmail or sex or, just whatever she used to manipulate others. That is something that a loss of her freedom will greatly quell. Now, she can still manipulate people who choose to reach out to her on the texting app, or write to her, or have phone calls with her, or visit her. She can still manipulate people, but she never has a free moment to get away with it. And she can't hurt anybody else from behind bars. There are ways that she could continue to torture the family with, what we choose to let her put out into the world. But her real power is being taken away. It's just quite the opposite of what she says. Anyway, so Alexis Pack, bless her heart, she's a stay-at-home mom now. It was just a job. She was probably making minimum wage. And she got to be the person who, through the computer, checked Letecia out on the day that she dumped Gannon's body. But anyway, I was in court that day. I don't know if you can see me. In the image on the right, I am just to the right of the journalist in the green shirt. But I'm the very first little head all the way in the back after you see the journalist in the green shirt, but before you get to Will Cook and not Spencer Wilson, Zach. Oh gosh, I can't think of his last name right now. Anyway, he was real strong on Twitter during the trial. Anyway, that's me in the back. That's my little face. I do have, let me see if I have it handy. I have a picture from a different day. No, actually, it was the same day, but later in the day. Here it is. So that's me on the left. I know I look incredibly thrilled to be there. It was one of those days that was real hard testimony, And so, I mean, look at everybody, between me over here on the left, Tellini right here, just wishing he was somewhere else, apparently. And then Letecia over here, just looking defeated and evil, and me just kind of like staring her down. At this point, so this is before she got in trouble for flipping the bird at trial. So a lot of times all I could see was this, she really used her hair to hide her face when she was sitting on this end of the defense table. And once she got in trouble, then she's right here. And then we really just got the back of her head. So it was very important to me to always come back and watch the social media coverage of the trial, even though I was there in person. Anyway, so this day in particular, after Alexis gave her testimony, she was so nervous, and she did great. They didn't ask her about any surveillance footage. She didn't say anything about any surveillance footage. They only talked about, the paperwork and the process. But I did, after her testimony, during the very next break, when I went out for a cigarette, she was there waiting for an Uber so she could go back to the airport and fly back home. And I just reached out, and I was, I didn't reach out physically. I just walked up to her and I was like, listen, I know you were nervous, but you did great. And she's just like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I can't believe I don't want to be here. This is so weird. It's all so weird. I was so nervous. And so I didn't interview her or ask her any questions, because really she gave me what I needed from her. She gave me on the stand, right? So I just walked away and went back over to the spot and had my cigarette, and then went back in and continued with the day of testimony. But she was just so sweet. I don't know. This case has touched so many people. Okay, so with that being said, I am going to actually hop into chat, and we're going to review some key testimony that I clipped about the road trip. So I don't show testimony from Alexis Pack. I also don't show testimony from Josh Johnson, who is the young man who rented Letecia moving van number 2. And I don't show testimony from John Watton, who is the gentleman who works at Budget Corporate, who provided us with the GPS report. The GPS report is on the website. What I do show is, first we have John Grassel, former Rhode Island State Police. Then we have Harley Hunt, and not her entire testimony, just about the road trip. And then we have the El Paso County coroner, who was really talking at this point about the road trip. So I will see you guys in chat, since I like this part. So now we're really studying together. Okay, so video file. Here we go.
People's Exhibit 294 up there. Can you tell the jury what 294 shows?
This is the front of the vehicle that we searched and processed. The vehicle is inside of the vehicle examination bay at the Rhode Island State Police Headquarters.
We can go to 295, please. What do we see in 295?
This is the interior of the vehicle, and it's mostly showing the front passenger side with the door open.
Are these the only 2 seats in that vehicle?
Yes.
296. What do we see in 296?
296 is this is a divider that separates the occupant area from the cargo area of the van.
And are those holes within that divider?
Yes.
Is there access to get to the back from the driver's cab area through those dividers? Do they open?
Yes.
Is it a door, or what is it?
It's a door.
Okay. We can go to 297 now. What do we see in 297?
This is the view from the slider door is open on the passenger side, and so the photograph shows the view of the rear interior rear of the van, and then at the back of the photograph, the 2 doors, the 2 rear doors, which are closed.
And what kind of material is the bottom area of this cab area that we see here?
It's like a thick rubber.
298? What do we see in 298?
So we're inside of the van now, and this photograph is showing the rear doors, which are closed. So it's inside looking towards the back of the van.
Are there any windows in the cargo area of this van?
No.
We can go to 299 now. What do we see in 299?
This photograph was taken with the rear doors open, facing towards the front of the van, the separated divider between the cargo portion and the occupant portion.
Are those the doors you alluded to earlier that we see in the center of the picture?
Yes, that's that's how you can access the cargo part of the van from the passenger part.
And does those doors open from both sides, or do you know?
Not certain.
Okay. We can go to 300. What do we see in 300?
300 is angle. The photograph is angled to show the majority of that floor section in the rear of the van.
301. What do we see in 301?
So 301 is from inside of the van, facing the cargo doors, which lead to the passenger side.
Can we zoom in on that handle to see what it looks like? So can you describe the handle to these cargo doors?
It's like a
recollection.
it's like a little latch, so you can it just opens.
Do you know whether or not there's a latch on the other side?
There is. There's a handle on the other side.
All right. So what do we see in People's Exhibit 307?
We had cut a portion of the rear floor mat out subsequent to testing.
And why did you cut this portion out?
Areas of this portion we noted had a colored reaction, so a positive reaction with when Blue Star was applied.
And so just for context, in People's Exhibit 307, what are we seeing here? What area of this rubber mat that you described earlier are we talking about in the cargo area?
So it would be the area directly behind where the driver is, extending to over halfway towards where the passenger would sit, and then towards the rear of the vehicle.
We can go to 308 now. What do we see in People's Exhibit 308?
So 308 is the cutout section, and you could it's discolored because that the darker portion is still wet from where we applied the Blue Star.
And you labeled that with placard 17?
Yes.
Now, did you or someone from your agency ship this to Colorado for further analysis?
Yes.
Why don't we go to People's Exhibit 309 now? What are we seeing in People's Exhibit 309?
309 is some of that color change that's noted when the Blue Star was applied to the mat in the rear of the cargo area.
And so is this the area that we just talked about that you cut out based on, I assume, this photograph?
Yes.
And is that what Blue Star would react to for presumptive or iron or blood?
Yes.
Did you also send the Verizon card and this rubber dog bone to Colorado as well?
Yes.
Have a moment, Your Honor.
Me.
Those are my questions. Thanks.
Cross-examination. How you doing, sir?
Good, sir.
How was your trip?
It was fine. Thank
It
you.
was fine. You get in last night or today?
I got in yesterday.
Yesterday? Okay. So, do you know how this van, do you know how to get to Rhode Island?
I'm not sure how it got to Rhode Island. I know it was seized, how it got to my agency.
Sure, but you don't know how it got from South Carolina to Rhode Island?
I do not.
Do you know how many people had rented that van in between when it was dropped off in South Carolina and when between you looked at it?
No.
And you guys are you guys are assisting some other agencies in this investigation.
Yes.
I mean, there was nothing to indicate that any of this crime took place in the state of Rhode Island.
That's correct.
And you basically got a call from the FBI asking if you guys could help out.
That's correct.
And one thing, because it was in Rhode Island, then you guys had to do a search warrant to a Rhode Island judge.
Yes.
Did you assist in doing that search warrant, or was that done by somebody else?
That was done by someone else.
Okay. Did you review that search warrant?
No.
Okay. And then as whether or not there was blood or whatever in that van and whose blood that might have been, that wasn't something for you to figure out. That was then, let me rephrase it. That was a bad question. To see if that was blood or whose blood that might have been and what you did, you ship that off to Colorado and let them, so they can run whatever test to make that determination.
That's correct.
You right now have no idea if that actually was blood or whose blood that might have been.
That's correct.
No further questions.
That's the day that we left.
And so just January 31st is when you go and get the items out of the house, the KKTV interview, you go back to the hotel. She's gone for quite a while, comes back. The next morning, what was the game plan?
The next morning, I remember that we were going to leave, and my aunt said that she didn't want to pay for the van while we were gone, and just like insurance purposes. So we had to go and get a new one.
And when you say we, who are you talking about?
Like they just had to go get a new one.
Do you recall who went and got a new van?
I don't remember if I went with them or not.
Did eventually your mom show up in a different van and at the hotel?
Yes.
And would that be in the morning of February 1st, 2020?
Yes.
Did you have any idea what was going to happen when she came back with the van, a new van, and on February 1st, 2020?
I just knew that we were leaving. I didn't know where we were going.
Did you ask your mom where we're going?
Yeah, the destination changed multiple times.
Tell us about that.
We were leaving. I remember she just kept saying, like, where do you want to live? And I was just confused. And originally it was going to be Texas, and then it was Florida, and then Myrtle Beach. Just kept changing.
When your mom came in this new van, did you see what was in the back of the van?
No.
Did you ask about where our stuff is? Because assuming all your bags and things were in the first van that Brenda, is it acquired?
Acquired.
I'm struggling with that name. They were in there when you moved them. Do you know how they got from one van to another, or if they even got transferred?
Yes, my mom and my uncle moved them.
How do you know that?
I just remember that morning it was cold outside and I was in the hotel and they had moved stuff.
And so was this a pretty quick deal? I mean, did your mom literally come back, pick you up, and then you hit the road? Is that what happens?
I remember that they were on a time crunch because my family had to get back to their flight in Denver.
And so did your family go one direction? And I don't know if it's the same direction, and you and your mom went somewhere else?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Sharon?
You may.
They hand you People's Exhibits 201 and 202.
Okay.
Do you recognize those exhibits?
Yes.
What is People's Exhibit 202?
It is the back of the van.
Is that a picture of the van that your mom rented back on February 1st, 2020, and picked you up from the hotel?
Yes.
And 204, is it 204? 202 and 203. Is that right?
201 and 202.
God, I'm not even close. So 201 is a picture of the van. What is 202?
A picture of the back of the van.
Is that what the back of the van looked like as far as you know?
Yes.
Was there a partition between the driver's seat and the back of the cargo area?
What do you mean?
Can you see like a metal grate between the cargo area and the driving area of that van?
Yes.
Is that what that looked like from inside?
Yes.
Move for the missions 201 and 202.
No objection.
Exhibits 201 and 202 will be admitted.
Request to publish.
You may go ahead.
So here we have People's Exhibit 201. Do you see that on the TV screen behind you?
Yes.
Is that the van then that you drove off to with your mom on February 1st, 2020?
Yes.
And People's Exhibit 202? What do we see in People's Exhibit 202?
It is a picture of the back of the van.
Do you ever go back in this back area during the entire time you had this van?
I did not know
And why not?
because everything that I needed was right by my seat in the front of the van.
Want to go back there?
I remember like wanting more clothes
Why didn't you go back and get some more clothes?
just because whenever we stopped, it was like quick, like whenever we stopped at hotels and stuff. So, there's no point.
Well, did you ever ask your mom, why can't I go back there and get some clothes?
No.
Did your dogs ever go back there?
No.
Did you have your dogs with you? I guess I should ask first.
Yes, we did.
Can we go to People's Exhibit 303 that's already been admitted? I'm going to show you a picture that's already in evidence. It's People's Exhibit 303 in just a second. Okay, 303 is up on the TV screen now. Do you recognize this photograph? It has a placard 14 with what appears to be a kind of a rubber dog bone.
Yes.
You recognize that dog bone?
Yes.
And how do you recognize that?
Because we had all like the dog's toys up front and their food and everything. They were playing with it on the drive.
Did you leave that in the van after you turned it in?
I didn't know until yesterday.
How sure are you that that's the dog bone that you had with your dogs in that van?
It looks familiar, like because like they were puppies, so we got like the little bones. So yeah.
Okay. All right, great. We can take that down. So what are you talking about as you're leaving in this budget van from the hotel room? Do you ask your mom where you're going? What's the game plan? That kind of thing?
Yeah, so I did. That's when she was asking me like, where do you want to live? And the destination just kept like changing. And she was just talking about like starting a new life.
What about Albert and Lena? Gannon? Did you ever talk about leaving them? And
No, she just kept saying that, you know, Albert went against her and doesn't believe her. So that's why she wanted to leave.
And it's something like that happened in the past where you and your mom left Albert and the kids on the road somewhere leaving?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
There were multiple times that she would just get like angry or frustrated and ask me to like pack up all my clothes and we'd get in the car. One time specifically from Colorado, we drove all the way through Kansas and then she would always like be like, okay, we just need to go home because her and Albert would talk it out and then we'd go home.
Did you think that was going to happen on this trip?
Yes.
Did that happen on this trip?
No.
At what point did you realize that was not going to happen on this trip?
Once we were close to Myrtle Beach.
So all the way across country up to Myrtle Beach, you're thinking, we're going to go back to Colorado. Everything's going to be fine. They're going to get back together.
Yes.
Do you remember when this trip to Kansas happened that you end up turning around and going back?
It was during the time that we lived in Colorado. I don't know the exact month. No.
Sometime during 2019 then?
Yes.
Do you remember stopping at a Love's truck stop in Pueblo, Colorado to get gas?
Yes.
Do you remember about what time it was?
No.
Do you remember stopping at a Walmart in Trinidad on your way in the budget van?
Yes.
And do you know why you stopped at the Walmart in Trinidad?
To get a phone.
And did you guys get a phone?
Yes.
Who went in and got the phone?
My mom.
Up until this point, as she's driving, was she obeying the laws and stopping at stoplights, stopping at stop signs, that kind of thing as she's driving?
Yes.
Did she know where she was going? Did she ever tell you, I'm lost, I don't know what we're doing here?
No.
Where did you think you were going as you left the Walmart in Trinidad?
Texas.
Why Texas?
I just remember her saying like, Texas is a good place to live.
Up until this point, did you notice anything unusual in the back of the van?
No.
Did you smell anything in the back of the van?
No.
You talked about Gannon and where Gannon might be driving down through Trinidad, southern Colorado.
No, she was on the phone a lot talking to people about everything.
What was she talking about?
I remember one conversation was about a video that was going to be surfaced. And she said it was going to prove her innocence. Just going over like everything that happened.
Who is your mom concerned about during these phone conversations?
Sustained. I think you can ask her what she said.
Sure. During these phone conversations, did you hear your mother talking about?
Did I what? I'm
Did you
sorry.
hear your mother talking on the phone to someone on the other side?
Yes.
Did you hear what she was saying?
Yes.
Who was she talking about with regards to what's going on with Gannon being missing and things like that?
Her sister.
Was she talking about her sister or was she talking to her sister about herself?
Talking to her sister about herself.
And what were the kind of things she was saying?
She just kept saying like she was set up, that this video that's going to surface will show that Gannon came home. Just things along that line.
Now, as you're sitting in that van listening to these conversations, did you ever ask your mom, what are we doing? Why are we leaving? Gannon's missing. Why aren't we out looking for him? That kind of stuff?
No, I didn't really question her a lot.
Why didn't you question your mom?
I would be told that, like I'm being like disrespectful or like talking back.
And what would happen if you were being disrespectful or talking back to your mom?
Sometimes she would like backhand me
Where would she backhand you at?
to my face.
Is that why you just didn't say anything and you sat in the van and went wherever she was driving?
Yes.
Overruled.
Do you eventually go to Amarillo, Texas?
Yes.
And do you recall staying the night in Amarillo, Texas?
Yes.
And do you remember what hotel you stayed at in Amarillo, Texas?
No.
Did you stay at a Candlewood Suites?
Sounds familiar. Yes.
And do you remember watching some videos of you and the dogs walking in a Candlewood Suites in Amarillo, Texas?
Yes.
Okay. And before we play those, Miss Hunt, did you hear your mom making these reservations as you were driving, particularly the one in Amarillo at the Candlewood Suites?
Yes.
You remember about how close in time to when you actually checked in that she made these reservations?
It was close in time. Yeah.
And would she make the reservations for one person or two people with $2? How would she make that reservation?
For one person.
And do we see that in the video that you'll walk through the lobby first with two dogs? She later comes in and goes to the counter and registers.
Yes.
With that, we would play People's Exhibit 316.
All right.
Before we hit play, is that you with the dogs right there that we see in the still image?
Yes.
Go ahead and hit play, please. Now, the clock on that video looked like it said 7:48 p.m. or 1948 military. You remember being about that time when you checked into the hotel?
Yes.
We can now play People's Exhibit 321. Can we? Yeah, we'll just let it play. Now, that video stopped at 7:47. Is that a continuation of you walking through the lobby, going back to the elevators?
Yes.
That speaks for itself, but is that what happens here?
Yes.
And where were you going to go? Why'd you go to the elevators? Do you know?
I just know like she didn't want to pay for 2 dogs staying with us, so we just went in separate.
And was that routine throughout this trip? Would you do that every night you stayed somewhere?
Yes.
We can play 317 now. Is that your mom there we see at the counter?
Yes.
Video stopped and it looked like the time was 7:47 p.m. Did you see that on the counter?
Yes.
You know where you're at as your mom's at the counter?
By the elevators.
We can go ahead and play People's Exhibit 318. Now, we haven't seen any bags in either of your hands now. Did you guys get bags out of the van or change clothes, or what was the plan with that?
No, it was always just like a in and out thing when we would stop at hotels.
We can go to 320 now. Okay, 320 has been played. It looked like it was 7:50 when that stopped. Is that right?
Yes.
So we can go to 323 now. So she got on the same elevator you did?
Yes.
Do you remember where you met up in that hotel that night?
No, I don't know if we knew the room beforehand or how we arranged that.
Do you leave the hotel at all to go eat dinner or do anything like that? Do you know?
No.
How did you eat that night? Do you remember?
We would order it to the room.
Room service? What'd you do?
No, Grubhub.
During the entire trip, did you ever stop anywhere and eat at a restaurant, a sit-down place?
No.
What kind of places, where would you eat during this trip?
Places with like a drive-through.
And would both of you go into the drive-through, or would you drive the van to the drive-through area?
I remember one time me going inside to get our food.
Did you ever stay in the van by yourself?
No.
You know why?
No.
Do you remember when you checked out of that particular hotel room?
The next day.
On February 2nd, 2020? Do you remember about what time of day it was when you left?
Around like 9 or 10. Checkout's at like 11. So
Okay. And so when you wake up the next morning, do you have any idea where you're going?
no, just back on the road.
Was the plan still going to Texas, moving to Texas?
I think at that point it was we were just going somewhere in Florida.
Now, the night you stayed in Amarillo, Texas, did you and your mom sleep in the same bed?
I know there were times where we did. I don't remember at which hotel.
Were there times where you had your own bed?
I don't remember. I remember like one specifically when we did have the same bed.
Well, the night of February 1st into February 2nd, did your mom ever leave the room by herself?
No, not to my knowledge.
February 2nd, do you remember driving all the way to Decatur, Texas on that date?
Yes.
And do you remember staying at Candlewood Suites in Decatur, Texas?
Yes.
Did your mom do the same thing? Would she call in advance, make a reservation? Would you go in with the dogs first? She comes in later.
Yes.
As she's making these reservations, do you recall her using any kind of corporate rate or saying that she was with a corporation, things like that?
Yes.
What would she say?
I believe it's called Ford Motors.
Where would that come from? Do you know?
My aunt.
So your mom knew that she can get a cheaper rate by saying Ford, or do you know that?
Yes.
Based on where your aunt worked?
I believe it was her husband.
Do you remember your mom ever leaving the hotel room when you're in Decatur, Texas on February 2nd, 2020?
No.
If she would have left the hotel room, would you have known it?
When I was awake, yes.
Okay. Obviously, if you're asleep, you don't, right?
Right.
Okay. So February 3rd, 2020, do you remember checking out and leaving Decatur, Texas?
Yes.
Would it be about the same time you left the hotel in Amarillo?
Yes.
Do you remember driving all the way to Pensacola, Florida?
Yes.
Long drive, right?
Yes.
When you get close to Pensacola, do you remember your mom making the reservations at a hotel room?
Yes.
And you remember what hotel room that was?
Not the name, no.
Was it the Candlewood Suites?
Probably.
Same process. She's with the Ford Motor Company, corporate discount, one person. Would you walk in first? She walks in later?
Yes.
You remember that happening?
Yes.
Did you guys eat at the hotel that night, or do you remember?
I think we ate beforehand, but I don't know.
Did you stop on the road somewhere and do one of these drive-throughs you were talking about?
Yes.
Pick up some quick food? Okay. So what happens when you get into this room? Do you remember?
We just get in, go to sleep.
Now, on People's Exhibit 181, it says that the car you're driving is a Nissan Altima. You guys weren't driving a Nissan Altima.
Right.
You see the Ford Motor Company at the top of the page there? Middle of this motion here as it zoomed in.
Oh, yes.
Is that consistent with what you've been talking about, how she would use corporate reductions to stay in these hotel rooms?
Yes.
So after midnight on February 4th, 2020, did your mom ever leave that room?
Not that I know of, no.
Were you sleeping the entire time or were you awake during times that night? And we're talking 12:30 in the morning on.
I was asleep.
Earlier, you indicated you're kind of a hard sleeper. Would you know if your mom left that room or not?
No.
How was your mom acting as you checked into this hotel room?
She was acting normal.
Up until this point, had you ever gone to the back of that van? It was back.
No.
At any of the stops up to this point, had you gotten any change of clothes or gotten any suitcases out of the back of the van?
No.
At any point during this trip to Pensacola, did you smell anything in the back of that van?
No.
Do you know why I'm asking you if you smelled anything in the back of that van?
Yes.
Why?
Because Gannon was back there.
How do you know Gannon was back there?
Because you guys told me that there was evidence that he was back there.
Did you later learn that Gannon's body was found in Pensacola, Florida on
Yes.
March 17th,
Yes.
2020? How did you learn that?
When they arrested my mom and the FBI came to the house and told me.
So what happens when you wake up morning hours of February 4th, 2020? What's going on in the room? Tell us about when you checked out and things like that.
Yeah, it was just like all the other days we just check out. Afterwards, we go grab breakfast and then we go to Orlando.
Why are you going to Orlando?
She was planning that that's where we could stay. I remember her calling apartment places to see if we could live there.
As far as you're concerned, is that where you're going to be living at the
Yes.
end of this trip?
Yes.
Miss Hunt, I want to ask you a direct question, okay?
Okay.
Did you help your mother throw that suitcase over a bridge in Pensacola, Florida
No, I did not.
on February 4th, 2020?
No, I did not.
How was your mother acting like after you left Pensacola?
I remember that morning when we went to go get breakfast. That was another time that I went into the restaurant. I went into McDonald's to get our food, and she was just I just remember her being sad, just being down.
Did you ask her why she's sad or down?
Yeah, she was just because of everything that's going on.
When you get to Orlando, do you remember how long it took you to get to Orlando from Pensacola?
No.
Was it the next day?
Yeah.
What happens when you get to Orlando?
We were supposed to stay there. That was supposed to be our time that we were going to stay there for a while. I think she booked our hotel for 5 or so days. And we left early.
Why'd you leave early? Do you know?
She kept saying they know I'm here. They're following us.
And who was she referring to when she said they're following us or they know we're here?
The police.
Was she acting the same way she was when you're in Colorado saying following us and things like that?
Yes.
So what happens after that conversation?
We end up leaving. And I remember her saying we don't have the money to keep staying at all these hotels in different places. So we drove to Myrtle Beach.
And do you remember when you got to Myrtle Beach?
A day or two after that.
Did you turn the van in to the budget rental center in Myrtle Beach?
Yes.
Did you go there directly or did you go somewhere else first?
We went somewhere else first.
And how long it took to turn the van?
I remember we got to Myrtle Beach. She had parked the van at a hotel near where we were going to stay at like a friend's house.
Okay. Do you know why she did that, or did you ask her why she did that?
No, I think she said like she just didn't want the person that we were staying with, like for them to get like attention brought to their house.
Dr.
Did
Kelly,
your
good
mom-
afternoon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. When you do autopsies, you've done hundreds of them, if not thousands of them over your career, correct?
Correct.
Okay. When you have a human body that is deceased, it will start smelling. For lack of a better term, it'll start emitting a bad smell, putrid smell, whatever you want to call it. But that's one of the hallmarks of death is a bad smell.
Yeah, as the body breaks down, the bacteria that live in our body begin to consume the body. One of the byproducts of their metabolism is gas that smells poorly. So once decomposition begins, yes, human remains, as do all organic remains, including other animals, begins to smell quite poorly.
How, and I know it depends on temperature, humidity, and a lot of other factors, but if you could just discuss when a person dies, a human being dies, how long does it take for this poor smell to begin?
So the breakdown of the body after death is driven almost entirely by temperature. Humans are like any other organism that dies. If you have a steak and you put it in your fridge or your freezer, it'll last for weeks, months, many years without smelling. You leave that same steak out on a hot day in the front of your house in the sun, and it'll start stinking within a couple hours. Humans are no different. And so given normal temperatures, let's say 70 degrees inside a home, usually decomposition begins between about 24 and 48 hours. Usually by about 3 to 5 days, the body is sort of well into a decomposition and the smell is quite obvious and strong. However, given a very hot environment, 90 degrees, 100 degrees, bodies can begin decomposing within just a few hours.
So inside a home or a building, 70 degrees, climate controlled, or perhaps in a vehicle that's climate controlled at 70 degrees, you're looking at 3 to 5 days before it could really start smelling poorly.
That's correct.
Okay. And when you say start smelling poorly, somebody else in a closed vehicle or in a home, or they would be able to smell it. It would be very apparent.
It would, yes.
Okay. Would it be overpowering?
You're probably talking to the wrong guy for that. It's kind of my everyday.
You have a high tolerance for poor smells?
Be careful what you get good at. Yes, I do. But yes, generally someone who's not used to dealing with that smell every day, it's tough. It's tough to deal with. It's essentially overpowering. Yes.
Okay. So a normal human being, it would be overpowering.
That's correct.
All right. I think that's all I have, Doctor. Thank you.
Redirect.
Thank you.
Doctor, your ability to withstand these odors notwithstanding, if a person freezes the body, will that delay when that smell becomes heavier?
It will. Yes, freezing a body will essentially stop decomposition as it does with all meat. And then once removed, it will take sometimes several days for bodies that we have that are frozen out in the environment during the winter to thaw to the point where you can even autopsy them, sometimes 2 to 3 days. So yeah, a frozen body or a body kept at cool temperatures essentially can last indefinitely before those smells appear.
And I'm going to ask you some probably very obvious questions here, but just bear with me. Gannon was reported missing in late January of 2020, winter months. If the body had been left outside in those conditions, would that be ripe for freezing that body?
It would.
If it was left overnight, would that be ripe for freezing that body?
It would.
And then if the the body is kept in an enclosed container, like a suitcase with blankets in it, would that also potentially limit how quickly that odor escapes from that item?
It would. First, it would insulate the body, allow it to stay cooler longer. And then also, any closed environment helps prevent that smell from emanating out, from flies getting to it, which aids in decomposition. So yeah, it would reduce the smell dramatically.
When your office responds out to crime scenes to retrieve a dead body from a crime scene, do you wrap them in, or do your folks wrap them in a body bag?
They do.
Is that to contain fluids and those sorts of things, and even potentially smell?
Evidence, fluid, smells, yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. So the first thing that, there's so much just in those 3 pieces of testimony, but one of the things that I really made a specific note about that stuck out to me is, that first witness that we listened to, the guy from Rhode Island State Police. He showed where the Blue Star activated or reacted, and where they cut that huge piece out of the floor. And it was directly behind Letecia's seat. It was right behind the driver's seat. Another thing about that van is the partition between the cab and the back. The partition between the front of the van and the back of the van, there's a door that can open, but there's also like the windows are, it's grated, so there are holes. So I struggle with the idea that that suitcase was directly behind the driver's seat, right up there by where those holes are. And, I understand what they're talking about with, if the body had been frozen and all of that. But to me, the simple fact that there was liquid that came out of the suitcase while it was in the van tells me that it wasn't frozen solid, right? And I'm not a scientist, not an attorney, not a policeman, none of those things. Also, that moving van, it wasn't packed from floor to ceiling with furniture and, belongings from an entire house. That moving van had stuff tossed in it. It was whatever they could grab of their belongings. It was mostly clothing. But it's not like it's not like there was furniture in the van, it was, why not open it up? All you need is clothes. It would be real easy to open it up and get the clothes out. It's tough for me. I have a hard time with that. And then when you look at it like this, so we have the night of January 27th, where Gannon is deceased, right? According to prosecutors, Gannon's body was inside the home overnight on January 27th. And then she moved it to the airport early in the morning, and it sat in a vehicle outside all day long. And then by that night, Gannon's body was outside. He was in the wilderness out at the S-curve, right? So the night of the 27th, he's inside. The night of the 28th, he's outside. The night of the 29th, he's outside. The night of the 30th, he's outside. And then the 31st during the day is when she goes and gets him from outside, and now he's back in a vehicle. And it's unclear exactly when she switches his body from Aunt Brenda's rented Nissan Altima over to moving van number 1. All we know for sure is that it happened sometime on the 31st, which is Friday. So as far as overnights go, he was inside and then outside and then outside and then outside, and then moved inside a vehicle. And then the night of February 1st, he's in the van. The night of February 2nd, he's in the van. The night of February 3rd, he's in the van. Looking at temperatures in Colorado Springs for January 28th, 2020, which is the first night that he was outside. The low, it got down to 23 degrees. And then the high during the day was 43 degrees. I'm sorry, 42.1 degrees. So 3 nights he's outside in the wilderness at the S-curve. And the low is around 20, and the high during the day on those days is around 40 something. Then he moves to the van. But that's okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 overnights by the time she dumps his body under the bridge in Florida. The coroner, he was saying, Michael Allen came back and he's like, yeah, but what if the body's frozen? Assuming that 3 nights outside at 20 degrees in the middle of the night at a low freezes the body, then how long would it take? And there were 1, 2, 3, 4 nights after that, after he had been outside, and then now he was in the van. And like I said, I mean, if there's, if it's seeping liquids, to me, it would also be seeping smell. But who am I? I'm not trying to solve this case. This case is solved. But I think you guys know what I mean. I just, it's hard when you realize, he was tossed off that bridge on basically the 9th day after he was killed. And, okay, so I do want to do one more thing. Well, we just hit the 2-hour mark, so I want to kind of try to wrap it up soon. But I do want to share my screen and go to the case file really quickly. The case file is also available on the website. I think that's under web with Nightbot. Nightbot will let me know real quickly if it's not. Anyway, so I pulled up the case report. Maybe it's under site. I really need to get better at this, you guys. Anyway, we'll figure it out. So looking at the case file, if you search, let's do the good old Control F, and we search for February 1st or February 1, it gives us a ton of options. But I just wanted to see. So this is just somebody going, putting in reports. And I'm just really going to mine through this data fairly quickly. So if you're trying to read it, I apologize. But like I said, this entire 1,000-page document is available on the website, which if Nightbot never kicked in, it's crimecurious.com/Stauch is where you can find this document and go through it yourself if you'd like to. This is just saying that they ended the surveillance on the Nissan. That's February 11th. So while Letecia is loading up the van and stopping at Walmart and getting burner phones and headed out on the road, the police are still working like crazy, chasing leads in Colorado Springs, even though she's now, with the body and leaving town. So we're going to see a lot of dates that we're just not going to get into. I just wanted to see if anything popped out at me. More on the investigation. So now this says Wednesday, February 1st, 2020. February 1st was a Saturday. You have to be kind of picky with some of these things. Okay, Saturday, February 1st. evidence facility. So this is the stuff that they had taken out of the Jetta. So while Harley and Letecia and the dogs and Gannon are in the van leaving town, police and detectives are going through all of the contents that were located in Harley's Volkswagen Jetta that was seized 2 days prior to this. The Jetta was seized on Thursday. More investigation. This might kind of be a dead end for the purposes of this live since we've already been going 2 hours. I just, I find it interesting. So I'll probably go through all this on my own, and I'll go through and control F February 1st through February 6th. And if I come up with anything else, it will be in the book because I'm going to continue this little study session. I'm just going to go back under, on my own. So I still have to do the phone pings and then one less run on the case file search. We watched the videos. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I do want to talk about tonight. So tonight at, Anonymous, thank you for gifting a membership. I appreciate that. And whoever got it, congratulations. Welcome to memberships. And you are now an accomplice that is helping me finish this book. Anyhow, tonight, which is also a Nightbot command. Let's see if I can get it to work. Let's see. Did it work? It worked. Okay, so tonight on Allie's channel, Allie and Jen and I are going to start with the December 2020 jail calls. And that link that I just put into chat is a link directly to that live stream. So if you want to follow that link and set notifications, we're going to be over there at 6 p.m. Central, so 7 p.m. Eastern. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And we've already ordered the January 2021 jail calls. We ordered the police interview with the woman who leaked the probable cause affidavit. Yeah, this is going really great. So my next step as far as this one chapter on the road trip goes is phone pings and one more run of the case file. And then I'll have a rough draft and I'll send it off to the editor and they'll send it back 5 times and we'll get there eventually. But now I have, I feel a lot better about the timeline and what happened and what all needs to be included that will allow people to draw their own conclusions. I'm not writing this book because I have all of the answers. I have it all figured out and I want everyone to listen to how brilliant I am. I started writing this book because I had so many questions and I've got enough of the right people to ask those questions to that we just might get somewhere, but still the whole point is to draw your own conclusions. I'm just collecting, I'm collecting the evidence and documenting everything for us. Anyway, so I hope to see you guys tonight for the jail calls. And I don't know, the thing that I have prepared to leave is just my gratitude to those of you who were members before this live started. And I'm just going to exit out with that. And I don't know, if you don't mind, I would really love to see those blue hearts in chat as we play out the members' thanks. And I will see you guys tonight.
Thank you.